So let's further examine and see, and you can now move the normal probability plot down here. Now we can insert a line, a trend line for the normal probability. So trend line. So the normal probability assumption is quite all right, because the plot itself closely follows the straight line. Okay, now let's look at a histogram of residuals, and for that we have to first create a pivot table for the residuals. So highlight the residuals, okay, like that, and then we will do insert pivot table, and let's put the pivot table right there. Okay, so we're going to put residuals in rows, and we do residuals as values. Now we want to count how many residuals there are, so you shouldn't leave this as sum of residuals. So we have to go in. Okay, so we need to change that to count. Okay. And then we want to summarize or group the residuals into smaller groups. Right now we have one row for each residual value, and we don't want that. So go on, right click in the pivot table, and so look for group. Okay, and then we will group them, say -5 to 15 in increments of say 2.5. Okay, so that gives us a fairly nice distribution. So now let's prepare a pivot chart. Okay, select the pivot table and then do a pivot chart. So here is the pivot chart. Okay, now we don't need this. Again, when you do a graph, you should clean up the graph. What legends are not needed should be taken out. And since this is a histogram, we don't need any gaps. So right click, say format data series. So go here and you see gap width is 0. And let's put lines, the border lines. Okay, solid line, and let's use black line. Okay, so now we have. Now, if you look at the residuals, and residuals does not seem to have normal distribution. It's kind of skewed to the right. Okay, all of this is okay, but we are still not seeing solid evidence in terms of the seasonality being a significant factor. Now, continuing our residual or analysis of the residuals for the model where we only looked at L1 underscore GDP as the independent variable. So we saw that the fitted plot against residual plot for against fitted values kind of random, and maybe some increasing levels of variability as X value increases. And then in the residuals over time very clearly shows seasonal pattern, but not quite convincing or clinching. Normal probability is okay, maybe a little bit skewed to the right when you look at the actual residuals histogram. Okay, now let us run autocorrelation function on the residuals and then see whether there is any autocorrelation there. So remember from the previous chapter, if there is trend in the residuals, then you're going to have slowly declining levels of autocorrelation. And if there is seasonal variability in the residuals, then you will have spikes in autocorrelation for the duration of the seasonality. So if it is a monthly seasonality, 12 months lag. If it is quarterly seasonality, like it is here, the fourth quarter lag, 4-period lag is where you will see a spike in the autocorrelation. So let's run the autocorrelation. And for that, open the ACF and more XLAM Excel file from the previous chapter. Okay, so now we see tab MGT3660 gets added. Click that tab and click ACF. Now we have to give the Y range, and remember we want to do this for the residuals. So the Y range is residuals. Okay, and say number of lags, so let's look for 12 lags. Okay, now output cell, okay, let's put it there. Okay, now click OK, and it creates the function for us. Let's go ahead and do some formatting. Okay, so now you look at the autocorrelation function and you see that 4th period lag, the autocorrelation is significant, and then 8 is also significant, 12 is also significant. Okay, so this indicates that the residuals, okay, has a seasonal pattern. So residuals, remember, should be completely random. So this means that we are not utilizing the seasonal, predictable seasonality in doing the forecasting. So we're just letting the seasonal pattern flow through into the residuals. So this is a clinching reason why we should really look at the quarter also along with the GDP lag by 1. Okay, which is what we're going to do in the next model. So this we'll call this one model number 1, where we simply use L1 GDP as the independent variable and not anything else. Okay, so the next model would be where we look at the seasonality.